What happens when Hollywood legend Sylvester Stallone sits down for what should be a routine promotional interview only to find himself under attack from a host who seems determined to tear him down? What you're about to witness is one of the most shocking live television moments ever captured, where a beloved action star reaches his breaking point and unleashes decades of frustration in front of millions of viewers. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really triggered this explosive confrontation. The morning started like any other at the View Studios in Manhattan. Sylvester Stallone had arrived early, his usual professional demeanor intact as he prepared for what his publicist had assured him would be a friendly chat about his latest project. The 70-something-year-old actor, still maintaining the physique that made him famous, sat in the green makeup chair as assistants buzzed around him, touching up his appearance for the cameras. "Mr. Stallone, we're so excited to have you on the show today," chirped one of the production assistants. "The ladies are really looking forward to talking with you about your new film and your incredible career." Stallone nodded politely, his growly voice barely audible as he responded, "Yeah, should be good. Always happy to talk about the work." But as the minutes ticked by and showtime approached, there was an energy in the air that felt different. Joy Behar had been particularly animated during the pre-show meeting, making comments to her co-hosts that seemed loaded with an edge that hadn't been there for other guests that week. "I've got some real questions for Rocky today," she had said with a smirk that her colleagues couldn't quite read. "It's time someone asked the tough stuff instead of just letting these guys coast on their old movies." When the cameras started rolling and the familiar View theme music filled the studio, everything appeared normal. The co-hosts took their positions around the iconic table, with Joy Behar settling into her spot with what looked like a folder full of notes, far more preparation than she usually brought to celebrity interviews. "Welcome back to The View," Joy announced to the cameras, her television smile perfectly in place. "We're here with the one and only Sylvester Stallone, star of Rocky, Rambo, and countless other action films that have entertained audiences for decades. Sly, welcome to the show." Stallone leaned forward slightly, his hands clasped in front of him on the table. "Thanks for having me, Joy. Great to be here with all you ladies. So, let's talk about your new project," Joy began. But there was something in her tone that the other hosts immediately picked up on. It wasn't the warm, conversational approach she typically used with guests. "You're still making action movies at your age. Don't you think it's time to maybe step aside and let younger actors take over these roles?" The question hit the table like a cold splash of water. Even Whoopi Goldberg shifted uncomfortably in her chair, while Sarah Haynes shot a quick glance at the producers off camera. This wasn't the line of questioning they had discussed in the pre-show meeting. Stallone's expression remained composed, but those who knew him well could see the slight tightening around his eyes. "Well, Joy, I think as long as audiences want to see the stories, and I'm physically capable of telling them, age is just a number. I mean, Clint Eastwood was still making westerns well into his 80s. But Clint Eastwood is Clint Eastwood." Joy fired back, her voice taking on a sharper edge. "And let's be honest, your recent films haven't exactly been setting the box office on fire. Isn't this more about ego than actual audience demand?" The studio audience, which had been warmly applauding just moments before, fell into an uncomfortable silence. Stallone's jaw tensed slightly, but he maintained his professional composure. "I think the numbers speak for themselves," he replied evenly. "The Expendables franchise has been successful. Creed revitalized Rocky for a new generation, and people still connect with these characters. I'm not making movies for ego. I'm making them because there are stories worth telling." Joy wasn't backing down. She flipped through her notes dramatically, as if she had been preparing for this moment for weeks. "Speaking of Creed, wasn't that really Michael B. Jordan's movie? I mean, you were basically just there for nostalgia value, right? Playing the same character you created 40 years ago." "Joy," Whoopi interjected gently, clearly trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. "I think what we're all curious about is how Sly keeps himself in such incredible shape for these demanding roles." But Joy wasn't interested in changing direction. She had locked onto her target, and something in her demeanor suggested this had become personal, though no one in the studio could understand why. "No, I want to hear his thoughts on this." Joy continued, completely ignoring Whoopi's attempted intervention, because it seems to me like Hollywood has this problem with aging male stars who just can't accept that their time has passed. They keep coming back to the same well over and over again instead of making room for fresh talent. Stallone's hands, still clasped on the table, tightened slightly. His voice remained controlled, but there was a new quality to it that regular viewers of The View had never heard before. Joy, I'm not sure what you're getting at here, but I've spent 5 decades building characters that mean something to people. Rocky Balboa isn't just a movie character to a lot of folks. He's a symbol of perseverance and fighting against the odds. If that resonates with audiences, then I don't see why I should apologize for continuing to tell those stories. But isn't it really about the money? Joy pressed on, seemingly oblivious to the growing tension around the table. I mean, these franchises are cash cows, and you're just milking them for every dollar you can get, regardless of whether the stories are actually worth telling anymore. The other co-hosts were now exchanging worried glances. This was not the direction anyone had expected the interview to take, and the production staff behind the cameras were clearly scrambling to figure out how to handle what was rapidly becoming a hostile interrogation rather than a promotional interview. Stephanopoulos shifts uncomfortably in his chair. Tom, there have been several articles. Several articles, but no names, no specific quotes, no actual criticism you can point to. Hardy leans forward slightly. George, do you realize you're doing exactly what you're accusing me of? You're potentially damaging someone's reputation based on vague, unsubstantiated claims. That's not the same thing at all, isn't it? You've just told millions of viewers that mental health advocates think I'm irresponsible. You've suggested that parents should be worried about my influence on young actors, but you can't provide a single piece of evidence to support any of that. The camera captures Stephanopoulos looking increasingly flustered. We have producers who research these topics. Your producers, Hardy repeats, and there's something almost pitying in his tone. Now, George, let me ask you something. How long have you been in journalism? That's not relevant. I think it's very relevant because what you're doing right now isn't journalism. It's gossip. It's the kind of lazy, irresponsible reporting that gives actual journalists a bad name. Stephanopoulos' face is getting red now. Tom, I don't appreciate your tone, and I don't appreciate being ambushed on live television by someone who couldn't be bothered to do basic fact-checking, but here we are. We invited you here as a guest. You invited me here under the pretense of discussing my work, then immediately launched into an attack based on information you can't even verify. That's not hosting, George. That's entrapment. The studio audience is completely silent watching this train wreck unfold in real time. You can see people in the crew starting to look panicked, probably wondering if they should cut to commercial. Tom, I think you're overreacting. Overreacting. Hardy's voice gets quieter, which somehow makes it more menacing. George, you've just accused me of potentially harming young actors. You've suggested I'm irresponsible in my approach to mental health. You've implied that I'm a bad influence, and you did all of this without a single shred of evidence. How exactly would you like me to react? These are legitimate questions about celebrity responsibility based on what? Show me the study. Show me the expert opinion. Show me anything other than your producer's interpretation of what someone might have said about something I might have done. Stephanopoulos looks down at his notes again, clearly stalling. The concerns have been raised in various media outlets. Various media outlets. Hardy echoes. George, do you hear yourself? You sound like a politician dodging a corruption scandal. Various sources say people are concerned. It's been reported. These are weasel words, mate. This is how people talk when they're making things up. I'm not making anything up. Then prove it right now on air. Show me one specific example of what you're talking about. The silence stretches on forever in television time. Stephanopoulos shuffles his papers, looks at the cameras, looks back at Hardy. Tom, I think we're spending too much time on this. We're spending exactly the right amount of time on this. You made serious accusations against my professional character, and now you're trying to run away when asked to back them up. That's not how this works. Nobody's running away from anything. Then stop deflecting and answer the question. One name, one specific quote, one piece of actual evidence for any of the claims you've made. Stephanopoulos is visibly sweating now. Tom, our research team compiled information from multiple sources. Your research team, Hardy says slowly. Compiled information. George, that's not an answer. That's corporate speak. You're hiding behind your research team the same way you're hiding behind these anonymous critics and vague concerns. I'm not hiding behind anything. Then take responsibility. Either admit you don't have specific information to back up your accusations or provide it. Stop trying to have it both ways. You can see Stephanopoulos looking off camera, probably at his producers, clearly hoping for some kind of rescue. Tom, I think our viewers would prefer to hear about your new film. Our viewers deserve better than this. They deserve hosts who do actual research instead of ambushing guests with tabloid rumors. They deserve journalists who can back up their questions with facts instead of hiding behind weasel words and anonymous sources. You're being very aggressive here. I'm being precise. There's a difference. You came at me with serious accusations and now you're upset that I'm asking you to back them up with actual evidence. That's not aggression, George. That's accountability. The camera shows the studio audience looking completely captivated but also uncomfortable, like they're witnessing something they shouldn't be seeing. Stephanopoulos tries one more time to regain control. Tom, let's try to have a productive conversation here. We could have had a productive conversation if you'd started with honest questions about my actual work instead of manufactured controversy designed to create a viral moment. But you chose this approach, so let's see it through. Stephanopoulos makes one last desperate attempt to salvage the interview. Tom, I understand you're passionate about your work, but surely you can acknowledge that celebrities have a responsibility when they speak publicly about sensitive topics. Hardy stares at him for a long moment, and when he speaks, his voice has an edge that cuts through the studio like a knife. Absolutely, George. Celebrities do have a responsibility just like journalists have a responsibility to their audience. Just like morning show hosts have a responsibility to prepare properly for their interviews. Just like network television has a responsibility to maintain some basic standards of integrity. I think we maintain very high standards here. Do you? Because right now your audience is watching you make accusations you can't support, ask questions based on research you haven't done, and dodge accountability when called out on it. Is that the high standard you're referring to? The camera catches Stephanopoulos' face and you can see him starting to lose his composure completely. Tom, you're being incredibly difficult. Difficult? Hardy's voice rises slightly and there's genuine incredulity there. George, you ambushed me with false accusations on live television and you think I'm being difficult for asking you to back them up with facts. What exactly did you expect would happen here? I expected a professional conversation. Then you should have conducted yourself professionally. You should have done your homework. You should have prepared actual questions instead of tabloid gotcha nonsense. Stephanopoulos looks around desperately, clearly hoping someone will cut to commercial or end this nightmare. Tom, I think we need to wrap this up. Oh, now you want to wrap it up after you've spent 10 minutes attacking my professional integrity based on nothing? After you've implied to millions of viewers that I'm a dangerous influence on young actors, now you want to just move on. We have limited time. We had limited time when you decided to waste it on manufactured controversy instead of discussing my actual work. You made that choice, George. You decided this was how you wanted to spend our time together. The studio is dead silent except for the hum of the cameras. You can see crew members frozen, unsure what to do. This has gone completely off the rails. Tom, I'm going to ask you one more time to please tone it down. Tone it down. Hardy's voice gets quieter again, but somehow more intense. George, you just told me to tone it down on your show after you attacked my professional reputation. Do you understand how insulting that is? I'm just trying to have a civil conversation. Civil? Hardy lets out a bitter laugh. There's nothing civil about ambushing a guest with unsubstantiated accusations. There's nothing civil about making claims you can't back up. There's nothing civil about trying to damage someone's reputation for ratings. Stephanopoulos is sweating heavily now. His professional mask completely slipped. Tom, that's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Explain it to me. Explain to your viewers why you brought me here under false pretenses. Explain why you thought it was acceptable to make serious accusations without doing basic fact-checking. Explain why you think journalism means repeating gossip and calling it news. We're trying to ask important questions about celebrity influence. No, you're trying to create controversy where none exists. You're trying to manufacture drama for television ratings. And when called out on it, you're hiding behind vague concepts like celebrity responsibility and important questions. The camera shows Stephanopoulos looking completely defeated, but Hardy isn't done. George, let me ask you something. Do you have children? That's not relevant. I think at Island. Do you have children who might see this interview? Children who might learn from watching how you conduct yourself professionally? Tom, please. Because if you do, What lesson do you think they're learning right now? That it's okay to make accusations without evidence? That it's acceptable to ambush people with lies and call it journalism? That when you're caught in your own negligence, you can just ask people to tone it down and move on? Stephanopoulos looks off camera again, clearly pleading with his producers to end this. Tom, I think we should take a break. A break? Hardy stands up slightly in his chair. George, you don't get to take a break from accountability. You don't get to make serious accusations against someone's character and then just walk away when asked to justify them. Security. Stephanopoulos calls out, and that's when everything goes completely insane. Security. Hardy's voice is filled with disbelief. You're calling security on me for asking you to back up your own questions with facts. This is unbelievable. You can see security guards starting to move toward the set, and Hardy shakes his head in amazement. This is what modern journalism has become, folks, Hardy says, looking directly into the camera now instead of at Stephanopoulos. When a journalist gets called out for shoddy research and unsubstantiated accusations, they call security instead of admitting their mistakes. Tom, you need to calm down, one of the security guards says as he approaches. Calm down. Hardy looks at the guard, then back at Stephanopoulos. I'm sitting in my chair speaking in complete sentences, asking for basic journalistic standards. What exactly do I need to calm down from? Stephanopoulos has completely lost control now. Remove him from the set. On what grounds? Hardy asks, still sitting calmly in his chair. For asking you to provide evidence for your accusations, for expecting you to do your job professionally. As security moves closer, Hardy stands up slowly, deliberately. This is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I came here to talk about my work, and I'm being removed from the set for expecting basic journalistic integrity. He looks directly into the camera one more time. Folks, this is what happens when you ask for accountability in modern media. Remember this moment. And with that, Tom Hardy walks off the set under his own power, leaving Stephanopoulos sitting there looking completely shell-shocked. The studio audience in stunned silence and television history made. The camera lingers on Stephanopoulos for a few more seconds, showing him trying to compose himself, shuffling his papers with shaking hands before finally cutting away to what had to be an unplanned commercial break. What did you think of that absolutely brutal exchange? Tom Hardy didn't just defend himself, he completely exposed the shallow tabloid style of modern morning television. Subscribe if you want to see more breakdowns of moments when celebrities refuse to play the game. And drop a comment telling me which part of Hardy's takedown hit the hardest for.